Okay, ladies, we're going to ask that you guys come on back to your seats so we can keep this party going. I was reminded by a couple comments that people came by and shared and mentioned how impactful this day has already been. And we're not even to the halfway point just yet. But I want to make sure that you guys aren't playing small or playing yourselves, and make sure that you're really connecting with the people to your left, right, in front of you, behind you, because this is the room that can make changes for not only your business, but you don't know who can be inspired by your own story, the retellable one, right? So make sure that you're definitely connecting with the people next to you. So I'm asking that everybody come join me back to your seat so we get ready for our next part of the conference today. And we're doing Show Me the Money, which is a VC talk. Show me the money. Uh-oh.
Before we get there, when you were talking about connecting, where is Siobhan? Oh, she's right there.
Right there.
There's something, I don't know if you got, well, most of you all do follow me, but we're developing an app. And you've seen it in like the verbiage in a lot of the posts. And it's really to service you all. And every event we have, everybody wants to reconnect with all the women. And she said yes. So that's one of the purposes of the app. The app has definitely things to encourage you as an entrepreneur, daily morning affirmations, things of that as well too. But there's a connecting feature in there. So you'll be able to see on the map. So say if you're going over to Dubai, you're like, oh, there's people in the Fearless community over there. Oh, you're going to New York, there's people in the Fearless community there. And you'll have access to them. So there's more to come with that later, but connecting is very important to us. And I definitely want to plug that in when she was talking about all the connections in the room. I'm going to let you guys go ahead with the show.
Thank you, Arian. So at this time, we're going to do Show Me the Money, a VC talk featuring Kim Seals, hosted and moderated by Bridgett Battles. You guys give them a round of applause. Thank you. All right, you ready?
Ready. All right, all my fearless sisters, I'm sure y'all are like me, that we have a passion about what we do, but we also want to make money. You gotta fund your passion, because if you don't fund your passion, it becomes a hobby. So we got good lifestyles. I'm looking around the room, so we got to be able to fund this. So Kim, I'm excited that we're talking.
I'm excited too.
Yes, so can you tell us a little bit about the Venture Capitalist Fund and what's the difference between a VC and an angel investor?
Sure, happy to do that. Terminology is great and important, right? So angel investors, venture capitalists, somebody back there was talking to us about private equity, all these terms, how does it all fit in, right? So an angel investor is typically an individual who is writing checks to invest in companies. Typically your angel is writing smaller checks. And a lot of times will be a solo or perhaps has joined in with a group of other angels in what might be a network. So, for example, I belong to a network of angel investors through a group called Golden Seeds, if you've heard of them. They're one of the most active angel investing network groups in the United States, and we invest in companies that have at least one woman in their leadership and founding team that has equity in the company. So we have that gender-focused lens to make sure that we're getting capital in the hands of women. But we are a collection of individual angels, and through that we all make independent decisions in the companies we invest in, but we band together to look at deal flow, to do due diligence and all that. So angels are typically individuals who have a passion for startups and many times could be an entrepreneur themselves who has had a successful exit and through that has decided to pay it forward or things like that. So typically smaller checks, but in more deals. Venture capital, typically you're looking at bigger checks. So for example, in the angel community, you might see somebody writing a check for $50,000, that kind of thing, right? So you get a number of angels who come together, write $25,000, $50,000 checks. Venture capital tends to be bigger checks, right? Tends to be, say, like a $200,000 check or a $500,000 check. Venture capital can sometimes come in later in the equation, right? So as you think about if you're starting on this journey to raise money and how you might want to approach different groups, right? And you think about, well, where should I go first? What we typically see is that our entrepreneurs start with friends, family, the founder, right? That's typically where you start to get your seed money or your pre-seed money, your early stage money. Then you go to the angel groups, then you go to the venture capital groups, right? And then you get into private equity and other things like that. So it's kind of a tiered system based on the size of the checks you're looking for and who's writing those bigger checks. So once venture capital gets involved, it's typically a little bit later than angels, bigger checks. They're doing smaller deals, right? So it's all about the stage of the company, the size of the checks you're looking for, different criteria. Typically, angels are investing in passion projects. Typically, it's industries they feel like they might know or have something they have to offer. Venture capital, maybe not quite so interested in being as hands-on, sometimes things like that.
So we're fearless moguls. We're going for the big money, right? We're going for the 200,000. We appreciate the angels. They're a great start, but we're going for the bigger money.
Well, yeah, because you can't get all the way to where you need to be. You're eventually going to probably hit all of these, right? So you're going to start with your own money, what we call bootstrapping, right? You're going to have some friends and family who believe in you and want to help.
Yes.
Then you're going to get to the angel community. Then you're going to get to the venture capital community. So you'll hit all of them, but ultimately you want to be successful enough to get to those big checks and that big money, right?
So how does the venture capital fund work, and what is the deck? What's the process? What do we need to do?
Sure. So let's take Jump Fund, right, which is another part of what I'm involved in, right? So I'm a general partner in the Jump Fund, and we are what's considered to be a venture capital fund, if you will, right? So we have limited partners who've all invested in our fund, have put money in it, and we as the general partner team make the decision on how to invest the fund, right? So we're writing those bigger checks and getting together. So what happens is the entrepreneurs come to us with their pitch deck, right? And I think that's what you're asking is what's the purpose of that deck? Why do I need to have a deck? And that's because you have to have a way to tell your story, right? I think you were talking about that a bit earlier, about how to tell your story. You've got those stories that you need to convey in those smaller one-on-one groups, but then you've got your story that you need to convey when you're pitching to convince someone to write you a check. And that pitch deck is a very critical part of that equation. And when you're pitching, depending on the scenario in which you're pitching, you're going to be given anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes to pitch.
Okay.
Right? And it's going to be pretty stressful, and you're going to have to nail it, right? And which means that you'll have a very succinct deck that addresses some pretty critical questions that we as investors have. And while you'll be very tempted to want to tell us everything, the reality is what you're trying to do is really get to that next meeting where you'll be able to get that detail, right? Get into that next level of detail. So, if I think about the 10 slides that you might ultimately need, they're really about telling us the story of, what is the problem you're looking to solve? Who has that problem? In other words, who's willing to pay you to solve that problem, right? Why is your solution better than anyone else's, right? What makes you unique? Why are you the best company that we should invest in for doing what you do? Again, who are your competitors? Why are you different? What's your financial model? How will you make money doing what you're doing? What does the future look like for you? How will you scale and grow in a short period of time? Who's your team? Why have you chosen them? Right? So you have great backgrounds, and there's a reason why you've started this business and doing what you're doing. So tell us about you. Tell us about your team. Tell us about your board of advisors. So many of you might be what we call solopreneurs, right, or solo entrepreneurs, but you surround yourselves with a great team of advisors, right? So put those people on the deck, right? In the deck. If you have a small team and you're like, well, I don't really have much to talk about in terms of the team yet because I haven't really gotten the capital I need to grow my team, don't be afraid to put the advisor team up there because we think that that's a valuable part of what you do. And then finally, tell us why we should invest in you. Be bold about, why we should give you that check and what you'll do and how you return it to us. And part of that is what your exit strategy will be. We know that you may not have all the answers yet, but what does a plausible exit strategy look like, and in how long. So have a little bit of homework done about others in your space who might have had an exit. What did it look like? Who bought them? You know, that type of stuff. So
what is the current VC environment now?
You know, it depends on where you are. Our fund is based in the Southeast, and that's purposeful on our part because we're trying to get capital flowing outside of the coast, right? Outside of Silicon Valley, outside of New York, trying to get some capital going in other parts of the country. And we find it to be a pretty robust and thriving community for entrepreneurs. For those of you that don't know or haven't spent any time in the Southeast, a lot of great companies doing a lot of cool stuff. So we're pretty thrilled with what we see there. So we're seeing a lot of great companies led by women, you know, doing interesting things in all industries, whether it's consumer products, media, ed tech, fintech, energy, and we are seeing venture capital firms. We are seeing investors come in from other parts of the country into the Southeast, knowing that there are great companies to invest in that are producing good returns for all of us.
I know as an entrepreneur, and if you get to the point where you want to utilize a venture capitalist, I often think about what am I giving up? What does the founder of the business give up to utilize venture capitalists?
That's a really important point for you to consider before you start raising $1 of outside money. You should have given a lot of thought to what is in it for you and what's in it for them. You know, we talk a lot about the term sheet and how this money will be, how this transaction will occur as being the marriage and the divorce all rolled up in one, right? You're doing all of that up front. And you should be really sure that you want our money before you take it.
Okay.
You know, and honestly, you should be interviewing us as much as we're interviewing you.
Okay.
In a very thoughtful, you know, way, right? Because you want to make sure that there's something that we're going to be able to give back to you as well. You know, there comes a point where, you know, we're going to be pushing on you to deliver results. We're going to be pushing on you for what that next step is and where you're taking your company. And we're looking for coachable, capable teams that we can work with. And you should be looking for capable investors that you can work with as well. So, you know, I'll say that you should be being as thoughtful about us as well. And know, again, that down the road, you know, 5 to 8 years down the road, we're going to be pushing you around what is your exit strategy, right? When are you planning to sell? When are you planning to go public? When are you planning to make that next move of whatever that was going to return our money plus that ROI that we were all expecting when we gave you that capital, right? And so if you have one of those businesses that you don't want to sell, that's perfectly fine, and we understand that. There are other creative ways for you to raise capital rather than take money from angels and venture capitalists. Okay. And it's one of the conversations that we have a lot in the office hours that we run with entrepreneurs when they come in to meet us, is we're pretty upfront about there are other creative, equally attractive ways to raise capital that don't involve taking money from angels and venture capitalists. So please don't think that's your only choice. There are grants depending on what your business is about. There's grants, there's pitch competitions where you could win prize money. Where pitch competitions, I should say, where you win prize money where it's not equity-based prize money, right? Okay. So you should be clear about what the prize money is in some of these pitch competitions. Sometimes it's pure prize money to go out and do your thing. Sometimes it's equity-based prize money. So you should know the difference there. And then there's sometimes you can go back to the school that you graduated from, right? And they have funds that are grants for their graduates who are starting businesses because they want to see their graduates be successful as they start their businesses. Sometimes the cities in which you are growing your business have low interest, very attractive loans because they want to see job creations in their cities that bring revenue in and help fund their cities and the things that they're trying to do to promote job creation, to promote economic growth. Again, those things are what we call non-dilutive. And by that I mean they don't take away from your ownership of the company and they don't push you in a direction that you may not want to go with your company. So I would encourage you to do your homework about the best way to raise capital for your business. And just because you chose to go the angel investor venture capital route doesn't mean you need to go that route if that's not the best route for you. And just because you heard a great story about, Mary who had an excellent experience with this and went in this direction, that may not be the best way for you and your company. So encourage you to do your homework and be just as choosy about how you're thinking about the money as we're going to be in terms of how we invest. The other interesting stat for you to know is that when we run our process, most venture capitalists only invest in somewhere around 5% of the companies that apply to them.
Oh, wow.
So it's not like, oh, you apply and of course you're going to get the money. It's a pretty competitive process. We recently looked at our jump fund stats and we've probably seen close to 300 companies and we've invested in 24 of them.
Wow. Wow.
So it's a pretty daunting process. We get to know you quite well, right? Multiple meetings. Very rarely does someone just apply randomly on our website and we invest. We go to different meetings with you, get to know you as a person, get to know you as a leader, get to know you as a business person. We want to make sure you know your numbers, know your business, know your market. All the things that you all have been talking about today are so important to us as investors to be sure that we have confidence in you and your ability to drive this business where it needs to go.
So you said a couple of key things that I want to talk about. One thing you said in particular that it's like a marriage, a relationship.
Yes.
So how do you get introduced to this relationship? And what questions do you ask?
Well, sometimes it can be a blind date.
Okay.
Other times you find us and you introduce yourself to us, right? So I'll say one of the most common ways for us to meet a company is someone else introduced us, right? Mm-hmm. So many times we will get a lead through another venture capital firm, another angel. We go to a lot of pitch competitions. We go to a lot of demo days. If you're in an accelerator and that accelerator has a demo day, we will go to a lot of those, right? And we will look at the companies coming out of the accelerators, whether it's Techstars or Boomtown, or there's Morgan Stanley has a fantastic accelerator program. They invite us to their demo day. Trying to think some of the others. In the city of Atlanta, we're tied into the Women's Entrepreneur Initiative, and so we see a lot of their companies that come out of that. So we will look at those kind of opportunities to get introduced to the companies. We'll, again, get those referrals from some of our colleagues at other venture capital angel investing groups. We will get some reach outs. I'll tell you, one of the ways that probably doesn't work is just that reach out through LinkedIn. I get a lot of those. I rarely accept those. And I'll tell you, mostly because it's clear to me that the person hasn't looked at our website first, hasn't done their homework. Our website lists our criteria very clearly. We invest in companies headquartered in the Southeast that have at least one woman in the C-suite with equity on par. So when I get a reach out from a man who lives in California, it's very clear to me they didn't read our website. Right? But when I get a reach out from a female entrepreneur who is in Texas and maybe didn't understand Texas wasn't in the Southeast, then obviously I'm a little more understanding of that. And then I'm like, okay, well, we actually work with True Wealth Ventures in Texas a lot. Let me point you in that direction, right? We consider Texas to be the Southwest, not the Southeast, but I can make a referral there. But do your homework on us, right? And there's a great website out there called the Angel Capital Association. And that website has a whole section for entrepreneurs that lists all of the groups out there that are angel capital groups. And it tells you where they're located. It gives you links to their websites. All of our websites are usually pretty good about telling you what our criteria is. It can tell you a great way to get to know more about us. And again, what you could use LinkedIn for is to find out if you know somebody who knows me, right? and Bridget and I, we were doing the LinkedIn kind of checkout. We realized we both worked in HR before, and we, had some common, connections there. And so that was helpful as we were getting to know each other, right? So, treat it like a professional networking opportunity, right? Who do you know that knows me? Who do you know that knows any of my other general partners? How can you get that warm introduction? It really is helpful. That somebody's going to vouch for you and your character as a business leader. All of those things that you hear about how to network, it works the same way in venture capital, right? Get to know us, we want to get to know you. There's just a lot that goes into this relationship. As you know, any transaction that involves money, right? Yeah. it's serious business. And so how are we sure we're the right fit for each other?
So typically, how long does this process go on from the point you apply to courting and leading up to the marriage, and how long does the process take?
Sure. So it can take several months, right? Because what happens is we run let's talk about the Jump Fund for a moment. We as a general partner group meet twice a month, right? So there's one of those meetings a month where we're looking at new applications, and we're sifting through what might be at any time, maybe 4 or 5 applications that we've taken in, that we're taking a look at. Then we're voting, we're scoring based on what we think is the market viability of this product, the interest of this opportunity, how do we feel about it. So once we decide, okay, which of these do we want to bring in for a screening, take a look at it, then they need to come in the next month if they're available, right, to come in and pitch. Then once they come in and pitch, then we say, okay, are we still interested? Do we want to start a due diligence process? That can take several weeks. So you start to see how, if we're on a schedule, right, and we're only meeting twice a month, and then we're doing some things in between, before you know it, we can be 3 months in making a decision. So you have to, and we're no different than other funds like that. And so as you're raising money, you have to factor in what the timing is and know that you should start raising money before you need it. Right? And I know that's kind of, it's hard. It's like, well, when do I think I might need the money, right? And so what you'll see is sometimes we'll say, are you raising enough money? And you might think, well, that's a strange question for us to ask you, because one of the things we'll say to you is, how far will this money take you? How many milestones will you get with this money? Because you might come in and think that you're being strategic and thoughtful with your money by saying, I'm only going to raise $250,000, and let me just go out and try to get $250 and then see where I am. But what we're going to sit there and say is, we know how hard it is to raise money and how time-consuming and how much that takes you away from your business. And so what we'll say is, well, how far can you get with $250,000? How far into the market, how many milestones, what can you achieve? And if you got $250,000, will you just be back out there raising money again in 3 to 6 months? Wow. And if that's the case, we would like to see you maybe try to raise a little bit more money, right? Well, so what could you do if you were raising $500,000? And would that get you to more revenue? And perhaps with more revenue, then you wouldn't have to raise again until the following year. And that gives you more time to focus on your business and more time to focus on results and traction, which attracts more investors. And it makes it easier to raise money when you have revenue and milestones, right? It's that thing that frustrates you guys, right? We ask you, we want to see more revenue, and you're like, well, if I had the revenue, why would I need the money? And it just is, again, proof that you're onto something, proof that you have a viable product, you have a viable solution, especially if you're in an area of consumer products, right, where you're dealing with the public, and we want to see that you have repeat customers, and we want to look at the churn and say, well, how many people bought once but never came back again? And it gives you time to be able to collect those metrics, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes we are just as concerned about you raising too little money as we are you raising too much money. And so, we will give you some advice along the way, and you'll get advice from others along the way. And, so you'll be trying to take in all these different pieces of advice and figure out sort of what's the right answer for me. And that's why it's really important that you find investors that you can trust and feel comfortable with. And, I think we're pleased to say that our companies that we've invested in, we have really great, transparent relationships with them, even when they're giving us bad news as much as when they're giving us good news, right? Because we know it's not all going to be just like this, right? There's going to be ups and downs, there's going to be good news, there's going to be bad news, and we want you to be comfortable coming to us and giving us the bad news first, right? We didn't hit our numbers this quarter. We didn't do what we thought we'd do. We didn't hit our milestones. Let's have those difficult conversations, and let's talk about what we're going to do next. So find those investors along the way that are going to help advise and coach you on, what should my valuation be? How much money should I be trying to raise? Are these the right partners for me in this whole process?
So can you give us some examples of what types of businesses are worthy of venture investment?
Well,
or some ideas.
Sure, and it's not to say that any aren't worthy, right? Because one of the things you'll see if you go out to Angel Capital Association is there are so many different groups out there, and that's why doing your homework is important, because you'll find these groups that focus on different things. Like, for example, there are funds out there that focus exclusively on the food and beverage industry, right? And that's what they tend to invest in. They know that space very, very well. They know how to coach the entrepreneurs in that space. They feel like they have a lot to offer, and they do that well. There are also funds out there that do nothing but medical device, right? That's a very, very challenging space because you have to get FDA approvals on that. That can be time consuming. Sometimes it's really, really risky because you may not be actually able to do any testing on patients to determine if your product actually works the way you say it works until after it's in the market. And in that case, you're raising a lot of money based on paper. You say it works, and then you get in the market. Like, for example, I personally invested in a drug that was supposed to counter the effects of noise-induced hearing loss. And at the time that I invested in this drug, they had only tested it on chinchillas because it wasn't approved to be tested on humans, right? And then when it finally got the FDA approval to be tested on humans, we did not get the same results, right? So at that point, the company ceased operations, and the drug and the formulary on the drug went back to the university where it came out of, and basically we were shut down, right? So that was an investment that didn't pan out the way we thought. So that's the kind of risk that you're looking at with some of these life sciences companies. So you have to have that kind of risk profile, right? Are you willing to take that chance? I believed a lot in the lady that started that company. I'd invest in her again in a heartbeat. She was completely transparent with us the whole time. I knew exactly what I was getting into. I had a personal passion around this topic of noise-induced hearing loss. I have noise-induced hearing loss in my left ear, and I wanted to see if this would work, so I was willing to take that risk. But maybe not everybody is, right? So you have to know again what these funds are willing to invest in. So I'd say, there's no reason to believe that any company is not worthy of an investment, but can you find the right group of people to invest in you? As far as what we do in the Jump Fund, what we do is look to de-risk our investment, right? And by that I mean, depending on what industry you're in, depending on what the product or solution is, we might have certain milestone requirements that we make of you before we'll invest. And so let me give you the example of consumer products. If you have a consumer products play, we would typically say to you, we'd like to see about $1 million of revenue with a 40% gross margin, right? And that's because we want to see significant consumer traction that you can sell this product and that you can make it in a profitable way, right? And what we would then do is be willing to give you the money to take you to that next level, right? And on that consumer products play, we see a lot of folks go to Kickstarter or things like that for that initial money they need to produce the product to get to that $1 million of revenue. Then they come to folks like us to say, now we're ready to raise venture capital money. We're ready to get to a fund to really get the money we need to really just have the exponential growth because we've proven that market traction. Right?
So you talked a little bit about your personal story and the reason you wanted to invest because you wanted to see the outcome.
Right.
I believe as entrepreneurs, we all are in business because we have a story that's tied to it. You're passionate about what you're doing and the people that you're serving. So Kim, I enjoyed your story so much. Can you share a little bit about your story about how you actually got into the investment?
Sure, sure. So, so by background, I'm actually an HR consultant, HR person by background, right? And so I get the question a lot, like, well, how did you get here? Like, oh, you know, what brought you here? And interestingly, through my career and where I was in the last 15 years, I worked at Mercer. I don't know how many of you have heard of Mercer, but a big HR consulting firm. And we were doing some work with the World Economic Forum. And the work we were doing was a project called When Women Thrive. And the project was all about the economic impact of keeping more women in the workforce, right? And that this wasn't a philanthropic effort. There was actually business impact and economic returns for countries, for cities, for businesses of keeping more women in the workforce. And what I was also seeing, though, was that big companies were not making any progress on this topic, right? So no matter how hard they were trying or what they were doing, you know, very little progress being made to actually get more women in leadership roles, getting more women in those high-paying jobs that would have helped close the wage gap, you know, all that stuff that was going on. And where the real progress was being made was in what we see here today, which is women starting their own businesses, women getting out there saying, look, I can do this myself. I have these great ideas. I have these great solutions. Let me start my own business. Let me do this the way I want to do it. And in combination with that, my sister had made a small investment in a startup she had seen in Colorado, and she was telling me about it, and I was like, well, how did you find that company? How did you get to make that investment? She's like, well, I just met this lady and liked what she was doing, and she was trying to raise some money, and I said, well, I'd love to invest. And I said, well, I wonder how could we find more of these kind of companies, right? Because surely they're out there, and you know, why can't we be a part of the solution that way? And through that, we found Golden Seeds, right? And the thing about Golden Seeds that I love is that they also train you in how to be an investor. So it's not just, okay, so go invest in some companies, but there's Angel Investing 101, there's Angel Investing 201, all the way through how to read term sheets, how to read a cap table, which is the table that shows who owns what in a company. They just really do a great job on educating you. And in the Golden Seed education process and all that, that's where I met Christina Montague, who was starting the Jump Fund. And she and I were both from the South. We were the only two people in the room from the South. Everybody else was from New York, and they were, you know, financial people that were more had those traditional backgrounds, investment bankers or investors or things like that. And Christina was the assistant dean of the College of Business for the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga, and I was the HR consultant. And we were like, let's go sit next to each other because we're sort of the two that didn't quite belong. And she told me she was about to start the Jump Fund in Chattanooga with this same goal of let's get some capital in the hands of female entrepreneurs. She said, we'd love to have you talk to us about what we're doing. And so I said, sure. And what I liked about the Jump Fund was the opportunity to put my money in a fund and have a piece of all the companies that we invested in through the fund, as opposed to what I was also doing with Golden Seeds, where I was doing these individual checks in these single companies, right? So I became a limited partner in the Jump Fund. And you know, as I told you, you know, I'm a few years into this, and I'm having way more fun in the startup side. I was, with my background in HR and talent management, I was getting a lot of calls to ask if I could coach some of the entrepreneurs around their strategies for people and how they were thinking about growing their companies. I had gotten a request to serve on the board of one of the companies that we had invested in that was in the HR space. But I was a senior partner at Mercer and had my obligations were there. And our compliance police, if you will, were not all that thrilled about anything else I wanted to do outside of Mercer. So I was coming up on 15 years, and I said, you know what? Let me go do this other thing. So I just took the leap of faith and said, you know, I'm just going to make the move. So I left Mercer. It was a great career, and called Christina and I said, hey, I quit my job. And she was like, I'm sorry, what? And I said, yeah, I quit my job and I was thinking I might do more with the Jump Fund. And she's like, how much of your time can we have? And she said, we're about to start Fund 2. We'd love to have you as a general partner. And so with that, really got more involved and came on as a general partner, which means instead of just being an investor like I was in Fund 1, helping to raise money for Fund 2 and making the selections of how we were going to invest the money in Fund 2 as a general partner. So then I also got more involved with Golden Seeds and helped set up our Atlanta chapter, where now we're up to, I think now 10 or 12 members in Atlanta, where we only had a couple of us before. So it's been a great couple of years. I've really enjoyed it, and we've done a lot of investing in the Southeast, and it's where I met Arian. I think it's been almost a year ago that I met her as she was getting involved in starting her fund. We, the Jump Fund, have invested in her fund, so we're excited to be a part of that. Yes. So I think anything we can do with Arian and others like her, like we're doing with the Jump Fund, that anything we can do to get more capital in the hands of female entrepreneurs. Again, as I said before, this is not a philanthropic effort. There is a return on this investment. The data is there that shows that just having at least one woman in the leadership roles in these companies, they're outperforming companies that are led by all men. So, yeah. So we're here to make money.
So Kim, we're fearless today.
Yes.
But when you quit your job, was you scared?
Well, let me tell you what. So I'll tell you what I was scared was to tell my dad.
Okay.
And because I was raised by parents who were, you don't quit a job till you have a job, right? And so he said, you seem to have jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. And he's like, and so what are you going to do? And, so I think it was just more, that, right? But I also had enough confidence in me, right? And I had enough confidence in what I wanted to do to know that, why not give it a chance? Why not go do what I wanted to do, what I was passionate about doing? And, and what I love about what you all are doing is we spend so much time doing this. Why not be doing what makes us happy and what's fulfilling to us, right? And, it's not that I didn't have a great job at Mercer. It was more, what was driving what I was most excited about. Like when you guys were talking, somebody was standing up telling their story earlier. They said they had to get to the passion part of their story earlier. Who was that said that, right? Right, because people know you're excited about it, right? And when I was telling people, while I was still at Mercer and I was telling people what I was doing with the Jump Fund and Golden Seeds, they could see I was much more excited about it, right? They could see I was much more energized by what I was doing to get capital in the hands of these entrepreneurs. So just was really clear that that's where I needed to be spending my time. That's where I would be happier. And, I won't lie. The day I made the phone call to quit, I was like, okay. And honestly, what my boss was like, I'm sorry, what? Because I was like focused on the future. I was like, I'm ready to do my next thing, and unfortunately, it's not at Mercer. And and she said, what does that mean, right? And I was like, well, I'm resigning, right? And she's like, I really can't think about this right now. Can we talk again tomorrow? And I said, so I have to resign again tomorrow? And I said, okay, well, I can do it better tomorrow, right? Because I finally got the words out, right, the first time. It's like, because sometimes you kind of overthink it in your head, right? And then the first time you say it and you get the words out, then you're feeling better about it, right? So the next day, I nailed it. Like that, my second resignation was a lot better than my first, right? And I wasn't as nervous, so it went much better.
Kim, our time is winding up.
Oh,
I feel empowered. Y'all feel empowered? Yeah. So my last question for you, I know you said that people would send you messages through LinkedIn, want to find more about funding. What's the craziest place that anybody has ever tried to pitch to you? They pitch to you in the grocery store or where? Like
the ladies' room.
Oh, okay.
That probably is the ladies' room.
From
right?
the stall or everybody washing their hands?
It's like, it starts like you're walking into the ladies' room, then you go in the stall and they're still talking to you, and then you come out, right? Right. It was. and I get it, right? Because you've only got a few minutes, and you want to take advantage of that opportunity, right? And so but that's probably the craziest place. But it's, there's part of you that admires that, that brave, right? You got your nerve up. Like, I'm going to say something. I'm going to ask, right? All you can do is ask, right? But that's probably one of the craziest places, right? Or you could also hover by the door as I'm coming out of the ladies' room, right? You can do that too, right? I might be feeling a little more open to listening, right? Because I'm one of those people that when I have to go to the ladies' room, I can't really think, right? So probably better to hit me on the way out of the door.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. This has been amazing. I've learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else has learned a lot. Yes. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. It's we're done.
Why are y'all looking at me? Keep.
Okay. Oh, we have time for questions.
Oh, do we have time for questions?
Do we have time for questions?
No?
Oh.
No, I thought you were wrapping up. I was coming.
Yeah, no, I don't. Are we sending them to lunch, or is somebody else coming up?
No, we have.
Okay.
No, y'all are hilarious. Y'all are hilarious. No, you were wrapping up. I was just coming after you all. Thank you, Kim. No, she was wrapping up. I was just coming up afterwards. And Kim will be here all day because I know you guys did have some questions because she's one of the judges in the pitch competition later because like she said, she did invest in our fund. But how are you guys enjoying all this? No, I'm serious. We want feedback and whatnot. We have a very unique opportunity today that I want to talk to you guys about, which do you guys know about our retreat that we have? We have like an intimate group of girlfriends. We get together, women, like-minded. You've seen it probably twice in Aspen. We're doing the Hamptons July 18th through 21st. And I'm pretty sure you guys have seen on the website, it's $3,500. Today only, you guys can have it for $2,000 with 2 payments of $1,000. Now, Keisha, I want to bring up, Keisha Knight-Pulliam, one of my girlfriends is here. She was on the last retreat, and she gave me, not because we were friends, but like one of the best testimonies of the retreat. No, she just came off the airplane, and she did not know she was speaking at all. She did not know she did not know she was speaking or anything. She's a judge later for the pitch competition.
This is what your friends do. They just, throw you on stage at the drop of a dime. But the funny
thing, if I'm driving, she riding.
And that's the truth.
She's a general partner in the Fearless Fund. So she's invested in everything. So if I'm driving, she's riding. But go ahead.
And vice versa. If there's a dark alley, she's gonna be in there with me. I trust for sure. But the crazy thing is, I don't even remember exactly what I said. Because it was so in the moment of really just enjoying everything that was created. And I'm not a cold weather person. Like, this was the second year that she did the Fearless Retreat in Aspen. The first year, well, it also coincided with my daughter's first birthday. She's like, next year, Keisha, I'm moving it a weekend. You have to be there. And I was like, Aspen? It's cold? There's not a beach involved? I'm really not about that life. However, I said, you know what? I'm going to be there. And I'm really, really happy that I chose to. It was a wonderful group of women. It was very empowering, inspiring, and it was very much like a real, snap your fingers, kumbaya, love fest. And, a lot of times, I don't have this experience, but a lot of women say, I don't have a lot of women friends, or, a lot of times we don't get along, or what have you. And I'm trying to think, the only other person that I knew personally was you and one other lady who was on the trip who I kind of knew in passing but didn't have, a close relationship with. And what I can say is we had a phenomenal time. Mm-hmm. We all came from different areas of the country, different backgrounds, and it was very small. It was very intimate. It was luxury. Arian, she knows luxury. She knows me. Certain, you pay for certain things and go on certain vacations, and she understands we don't do last class. So it was very much first class, and I just really enjoyed it. I did not expect to enjoy it so much, and I really did. And this isn't, soliciting. I paid to go on a trip because she did pay. The whole thing because she's. No, but we're a firm believer in that and supporting one another. And the way you also support is financially. So when she's doing something, when she's selling a book, I'm gonna buy a book. Yes, she's my friend. She may give me one also, and vice versa. If I'm doing something, she knows she's gonna buy it, but she doesn't have to because she's also going to receive. But we also, as women, have to remember that it's about supporting one another and supporting our dreams, and that also includes financially. But what I can say is, I'm thinking like, wait, what are the dates again? It's 2,000 today. You may get me on this trip again to the Hamptons.
Now, this is the difference. It was 5,000 and 6,000 before.
Yes.
And Aspen included accommodations. The Hamptons doesn't. We lowered the price so that you guys can go figure out how you want to live on your own. The host house will have, of course, a few of us in there, but we lowered the price. Therefore, you guys can be like, okay, you know what? I'm Airbnb for $40 a night. I don't care. I'm not spending that cash. So it gives you that flexibility.
And what I can say is the network of women that you have the access to as a result is priceless. The knowledge base that you gain from the women and their different, fields of expertise is absolutely priceless. So it's worth it. It's worth it, and you have to invest in yourself. And you have to ensure that you fill up your cup, because specifically as women, we are the givers. We are the ones to make sure that everyone else is taken care of. We are the ones that pour into everyone. But what I know is, especially as a mom, a single mom who has 25 jobs, that you cannot pour from an empty cup, period, point blank. And it isn't selfish, it's necessary. So.
Well, thank you. No, I don't need, I'm like the, yeah, somebody take this. Courtney, take this. No, really quick, the reason why I asked were you all enjoying this, because there's 5 business workshops that take place at the retreat. That's why I asked were you guys enjoying this. So I'll be teaching on sponsorships and brand partnerships, and it's so wild how even Dana is here and this even happened, and things of that sort too. So there's 5 business workshops. So that's why I was like, are you guys enjoying this? Is this something that any of you guys would want to do? Yes. Raise your hand. No, I'm serious. Okay, so a lot of you guys, so if you want to take advantage of it today, Siobhan, raise your hand. She's here to sign you guys up. After this, I'm being honest with you. When you go to the website, you can go there now. This is not the price. This is not the price. It's no, what Keisha said. No, I'm serious. It's not, because it comes with overhead. That's just the reality to it. It comes with overhead. So if it's something you want that intimate experience to learn in that kind of environment, and like she says, even the women coming from all different backgrounds, one of our girlfriends that's there, she's done like over $1 billion in sales. And she's coming again. So people definitely do share their knowledge, their wisdom, the connections, like she said, the relationships, they're priceless. So if you're interested in that, you can go see Siobhan. Where is Nicole? I'm so sorry. Y'all supposed to be going for lunch. I'll be signing more books. But, oh, yeah. So just stay tuned. I got another announcement at the next break. But go ahead, Nicole. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I know a few of you are hangry, right? I heard that earlier, like, wait, the clock is ticking. So we've come upon the moment where you all are going to dine and fellowship with one another. Just a few more housekeeping rules so that we can keep this thing classy and we don't have to have any issues with Facebook. Make sure I took my lanyard off when I came up here. However, make sure you keep your badge on at all times. Lunch is going to be right through these back doors over here, over all of your corners. It's going to be in the micro kitchen. You are able to come back in here and enjoy your lunch, because I know the micro kitchen is not a very huge space. So to kind of give a little flexibility there, please continue. There's a whole nother whiteboard if you haven't used it. Girlfriend over here with the pink, with the puff, your lighting is amazing right here on your picture. Make sure hashtag Fearless Moguls, okay, with all of your pictures. And those of you who are doing the pitch competition, please see Siobhan to the back of the room. And? So instead not even in the micro kitchen, you can bring it back in here. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So get your food, come back in here, and we'll all fellowship and dine together. So see you guys in 1 hour exactly. Let's try to make it, I know it's 2:08, but if we can get closer to 3 o'clock back in these seats, it would be very appreciated. Thank you so much, ladies.